so Luna Oi, Luna Oi, and EJ, it's EJ, right? American Johnson, interviewed Taimur Rahman. He's the president or the general secretary of the Pakistan Communist Party. Pretty knowledgeable person, like, and one thing I didn't know is that he lived in the United States for a while, and was an organizer with the Teamsters, which, by the way, I also organized with the Teamsters, so. So I have a little bit of a connection there, and though he did it in North Carolina and I did it in Washington State, and I think he actually was a paid organizer and I wasn't. I was totally rank and file. But it's interesting. He goes over like the whole history of the history of Pakistan, and which is pretty interesting. He goes into a little bit about the history of the Pakistan Communist Party, and he mentions like their main problem being that they're kind of isolated and that nobody even knows they exist, other than like India.
Yeah.
What was that?
Which they he said it's something about like they asked how are the relations with the Communist Party of India.
Yeah.
He kind of laughs. He's like, well, we don't hate each other, basically, he said, but we can't do much for each other besides, say good job or anything like that.
And he doesn't
exactly yourself. It's so isolated and small right now.
Yeah, and he doesn't even mention whether he's talking about the Communist Party of India ML or M, because there's two different CPIs. I'm guessing M, but it's interesting because he mentions earlier that the Pakistan Communist Party was the CPI. They were the Communist Party of India. Before Pakistan got its independence. Became an independent state, and the other thing that's interesting is he mentions the dynamics of the Communist Party of Pakistan and how the Communist Party of India kind of grew under India, where India was like an ally of the Soviet Union, right? And Pakistan grew out of, an era where Pakistan was basically a U.S. puppet. It was a close associate of the United States, of U.S. imperialism. And so because of that, the Communist Party of Pakistan didn't develop this friendly relationship with the government. Whereas I know, Andrew, we've covered CPI India, and there's these kind of weird, oddball, friendly statements with the CPI, Communist Party of India, and the government there, right? Like,
yeah.
And so I found that kind of interesting. Was that?
Yeah, but that's now. But it was interesting at the start. He goes over the history of like Pakistan being, the left being much more, aligned, left leaning at the start of, when Pakistan formed, as opposed to later, as to what you're talking about now, which goes into also the history of, what happened in Afghanistan and this communist threat. But eventually, Pakistan grew into this, neoliberal government, pro or U.S. ally sort of thing, which was interesting. I didn't really know that either. I knew the long military
was uh was like he was asked about like, well, is Pakistan, he basically got asked if Pakistan was like a colony of US corporations, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's not a colony, right? And this is like a common misconception in the left that like every third world, nation, or every nation that's outside of the United States and Russia and China is like a colony, right? Or in Europe is like a colony. And it's like, yeah, like they went through that period when they were with, when they were a part of India, right? Because they were colonized by the British. But like he mentions that like, hey, like most of the corporations and the capitalists here in Pakistan they're all Pakistanis. We have our own capitalist class here, which I'm kind of glad he spells that out. And the other thing I thought was interesting is, and this goes back to kind of a debate that I had with Ben Seattle, is he mentions the need for a communist party in every country, in every nation, to organize that nation. And like, because I know Ben Seattle challenged me when I said, look, those within the United States and Canada, those Marxists have to learn how to organize the United States and Canada. And Ben Seattle challenged me and said that it's anti-internationalist. But as you see from our show, we're constantly covering, Marxists from all across the world and listening to their opinions far more than those that that don't that don't agree that Marxists in the United States and Canada need to organize, and so anyway, I was pretty impressed by the interview. I mean, I know like it's kind of lighthearted, but
I liked it because it, for the length, I was kept, usually after, if, listening to.
Oh, your mic got cut off, Andrew. I don't know what happened. There it is.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good 2 hours of like good conversation and good discussion. So yeah, I liked it. I think people should check it out, and it's a good step in the right. It's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I was kind of impressed from what I heard from Taimur Rahman. I'm glad that he's doing interviews like this. If he wants to keep doing interviews, like, yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to have him on this show.
Yeah.
I think he also has a band. I forgot what it's called. But yeah, he has a band that does some music, and I think he was doing that to kind of reach out to people. I had a couple of questions that I didn't really get answered. So hopefully I'll be able to answer those later. And one of them was, I was kind of curious, like, so what is the Pakistan Communist Party's thoughts or on Biden saying that he's going to pull all U.S. forces out of Afghanistan on September the 11th, 2021. And so, I'm genuinely curious, like, what are their thoughts on that? Like,
yeah, and
how would that affect Pakistan? Like, would it affect Pakistan? Like, how would it affect Pakistan? He mentioned like the Belt and Road Initiative and how that's basically the biggest foreign investment in Pakistan's history, which I didn't know. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And that basically it dwarfs any investment by the United States. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I thought I thought it's it's interesting that his position is to reach out to other Marxists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that he thinks that that's important. I mean, we obviously, Andrew and I, we both think it's important.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So
I think, before we get some more interviews or get any guests on, we need to get our numbers a little bit higher than three viewers.
yeah, we do appreciate everybody that's watching.
We do. Thank you, those 3 right now watching. So, you know, hopefully when Art and I start sleeping again, and we're gonna, you know, start pushing and make a couple new tweaks on the show, and then start pushing the show a little bit more now.
And if there's ever any issues with sound or anything, just give us a poke.
Yeah,
you know, let us
before
know.
the 40-minute mark, please, next time.
Anyway, you can check out the full interview on at Luna Oi on YouTube. And I think it's worth checking out. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And that is our show for this week.
Yeah, as always, you're welcome to check in on Reddit and post. If you got an event, you can put it to Reddit. You can send a DM to me or Andrew, so we can mention your event. We need at least a week in advance to plug it. And if you want to talk about the content on the show, if you got something new, if there's something that you think we should cover, there's a group that we missed, just let us know. We'll try to get to that. And as always, thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah. See you next